Hi everybody and big welcome to a Sissay EDH rant, more or less. I think Ertai is absolutely amazing and somewhat auto-included, but we have different people with different opinions here, and I think that's great because sometimes you gotta hear other people's opinions, not just mine. So with us today we have Captain Bill.
Hello, hello.
And you can't see her, but Riled Up is here as well.
Hello.
In this video, we're gonna take a look at some deck list, look at some different card options, and see different Sissay builds and IDs, and like different strategies, and where different cards ends up in those strategies. So the reason I think Ertai is absolutely amazing, and in my opinion somewhat of an auto-include, is because of one specific reason. Now, I think all of us are gonna agree that Ertai is absolutely great. For example, with Emil and Ertai, you can do a cool trick where if you have infinite mana, which is something CC acquires, he could be your win con. For example, you flicker Ertai to destroy one thing, and then you flicker him again to stifle his own ability, basically giving you a card draw. So he's an outlet after you have infinite mana. But also, if you just have him in play, you don't have infinite mana, you have an Emil, you can sit there and destroy things, and you can also sit there and counterspell more or less everything your opponents are doing. So it's a great control card if you're just getting that game. However, there are other options to this, and having Ertai and Emil in play isn't something that's just always gonna happen, it's a rarity. And there are other options to have a finisher with Emil, like Mayhem Devil Dockside is usually very popular because Mayhem Devil is actually a pretty good Stax card. But there's also the option that some people go for the... what's the Rakdos Elder? I don't remember his name again suddenly.
That would be Croxa.
That's the name, Croxa. Croxa is very popular and there are other options too. But the reason I think he is auto-included is that he is that ultimate answer to everything, or more or less everything. Because sometimes I end up in games, or not that, like kind of often actually, where I can pseudo-win, someone interacts with me, I have a CC activation, but I can't win. CC is now like a 5-5, I have a pretty good board state, and I can probably win next turn, but I need to pass and win that next turn. And he is like the ultimate card to just have inside the deck. If someone Cyclonic Rift Overload, a very few answers to that for Sissay. Board Wipe, a very few answers to that for Sissay. And sometimes people cast a opposition agent, and I can respond by flashing this one, or something of the sort. That's why I think it's a card that I absolutely must have in my Sissay list. However, we have other people here with other beautiful ideas. Let's listen to it.
So I think honestly the trick when it comes to auto-includes, right, is that auto-includes are really very much predicated on both deck and style, right? Which is kind of what makes a lot of these types of conversations both kind of spicy, but also at the same time kind of moot, right? So like a Stax player, they're not going to sit there and accept that every ritual is going to be an auto-include. And like a turbo player, right, they're not going to accept that, rule of law stuff is always going to be auto-included, right? And even if those, rituals and rule of law cards and anything else are like really high utilization, like staple cards, right, in cEDH, what ends up happening a lot of the time is that whether you're in Discord with friends or a table, whatever it is, both sides are making really good arguments, but then they end up both walking away with no change of mind because the opposing side really isn't like running their deck or style, right? So I think that Ertai considered the best card that Sissay won't run, right? Because it does a lot of great stuff, right? Like you have a lot of good options, and with the card, one of the issues that me personally, and I'm going to kind of argue a little more against the auto-include of it, is I don't think it helps so much in the first 3 turns when you're running against those, turbo style decks. You're not going to be able to, just pull this out of your deck, having a 5-5 Sissay on the board turn 2. I mean, we're still trying to ramp, still trying to get other legendaries down. So really good card, but, it's only helping you somewhere around mid-game and beyond, right? So I'm kind of leave it there. I'll let sort of Riley speak, but yeah, that's where I'm at with the card right now. But I like it.
So my opinion is a little biased just because I don't really play lands. And like that might sound like weird. Oh, why do you not like it? Oh, it's because I don't play. So the goal for my deck is not to stall the game out. It's not to stax everyone down. It is to throw out just 1 or 2 little pieces so people trip and then I go in combo. And so I am not really a Stax deck, nor am I trying to control the game. So with that context, I don't see how he fits in the deck, because at 4 mana, you need to have a 5/5 Sissay in order to use him. And in order for me to have a 5/5 Sissay, I need to have already won. Not already be winning, but I need to have already won. Because I would always grab Emil over Ertai, for example. And if I can't win with Emil, I don't try and grab any of the pieces. So I don't grab Savala, I don't grab Derevi. I wait for the extra 3 mana to activate Emil. And so he just seems, even though he's good, he's very clunky, if that makes sense.
Like having a 5/5 Sissay is usually when you're winning the game already. So the point where you
Right.
can have him is where you're winning. But my experience, if we actually jump over to look at we begin by looking at my lick list. So this is the current Sissay build that I have. Ertai is over there. It is still trying to win as fast as it can. However, in most of my situations, I end up with things that are interacting with me that prevents me from being able to win. And by the way, this is just an experiment. I know that it's in here, Ramses Assassin Lord. Don't take too much focus on that. That is just like, I'm trying to see if he actually works. So don't take this list as a 100%. There are a lot of experimentations here and there. He's one.
Actually, I was surprised you're under 40 creatures for once. That was nice.
Yeah, this is not that list. That was a specific tournament list when people just cutting too many board wipes. So like, oh, you're not playing
Right.
Cycrypt, you're not playing Toxic, then I can exploit that.
Exactly.
But yeah, I have, as you can see, I have a Force of Will, Force of Negation, Mental Mist. I have them all. Not all of them, but I have a bunch. Getting Sissay to 5/5, that's absolutely a rarity. But I really like what you said, Bill. That we might have different decks, so to say. For example, I think I would say that my Sissay is a Stax deck. Just like Rylap said, I'm trying to put a few pieces into play and then try to win. But there are always those scenarios where someone interacts with you, you can't win, but you have a Sissay activation. Sissay is a 5/5, Derevi is in the graveyard, you have to pass turn, and it's in that scenario that I actually end up in a lot of, because people are often interacting with my board state quite early in the game, or quite often in the game too.
I think every Sissay player actually goes through that frustration.
Yeah.
You'd think we're Turgid or something, but
But if you look at, for example, this is Captain Bill's, that guy's list. So if you just go over it in a short, or how would you explain this one?
all right. So very much unlike your list, right? You are a little more Staxy, and I think that Ertai, if going to be included, works a lot better in Staxy lists, in which you are extending the game a little bit. And you're not trying to burn out, turn 3, 4, 5, right? If you're, trying to get to 5, kind of win there, kind of, hold out your mana to kind of win on top of someone, or like, it makes a lot more sense, because the odds of you having a larger Sissay, I think, are going to be a lot higher. A deck like mine, I don't think there's a single like hard Stax piece in the entire thing.
You have a Lavinia Saurus Renegade, right?
I do have Lavinia, yeah. Riley had said, try to get people just enough to trip, get me, they're designed to build me a little bit more card advantage. And my goal is really to win ASAP. I know I'm not going to be quite as fast as the true turbo decks like Rock Silas and a lot of the other, ad nauseam decks. They're going to jump out about a turn ahead of me. But, as we all know, trying to win first is how you lose first. If you can, try to get your win attempt right on the back side of that, first or second win attempt, interaction is spent, now you're a little bit more free. And so my deck is really more of a pod style deck, and it's all tutors, pretty much all the fast mana I can possibly put in there, and I'm trying to jam out Birthing Pod and Sissay as quickly as possible. I can typically get that out turn 3 and go for a win on 4 with a good hand. I can push out a win turn 3, but 4 is about average. 5 it's okay, because for a lot of Sissay players, players, which is I think is a really good way to play, is we're basically like, let's get to Wooburg and win, right? And everything we can do to set up for that Wooburg turn, gets us out there. My goal is to win before Wooburg. I want to be able to win faster than what sort of the average Sissay deck is, which again, for a toolboxy, honestly mid-range type deck, it's a little bit of a break from the norm. And again, I am going at breakneck speed, so I don't have quite as much interaction as a more controlly deck as a Staxy deck has, but I'm really working to time what I'm doing. And a lot of the stuff that I'm trying to win with, whether it's Vivian or Birthing Pod, or trying to sneak something out, a large CMC creature with Cultists of the Absolute.
I kind of like the idea that you're playing Sissay and everyone expects you to win once you have your Sissay activations, but like it feels like you're trying to go for the surprise here. You have Faza's Oracle and Consult and Tainted Pact, which is like standard Demir win, and then you have Birthing Pod to win faster. So what you're talking about before, different decks have different goals. A Stax player and a Turbo Combo player sitting down, like in this example, I'm the Stax player and you're the Turbo player. We would have different eyes looking at Ertai. And I really like what you said there, because going into a conversation, you need to know about what both parties are looking at when they're making their arguments. So looking at your list here, I would absolutely agree that Ertai, not that great.
Yeah.
I mean, your Sissay isn't gonna be that big that frequently.
No.
Like you will have Lavinia and maybe this Catalid Dawn Prime, and she will be a 5/5. And if you have that, Ertai would make sense.
There are times where I'm like, oh man, Ertai would be really nice right now. There's a card, Cultist of the Absolute. Cultist Absolute is what allows Sissay to actually blend into a pod style deck. When you're looking at a lot of other pod decks like Blood Pod or Kenrith Pod, or they're mostly Stax decks, right? Keep yourself sort of protected, get a Birthing Pod out, and kind of go off from there. In a deck like this, just plopping Pod in, I don't think would be enough. It's not going to work. Yeah, I can run all the fast mana. Yeah, I can get Pod out. But if someone blows up Pod, now I have 3 or 4 cards in my deck at least that are predicated on one particular type of combo and not really using them anymore. So what Cultist of the Absolute allows me to do, and for Sissay, getting just one legendary out is not difficult. Like we have a high enough density of them that we can actually play something out and have at least minimally, even Ragavan, we have a 3/3 Sissay. As long as that legendary has at least one non-black pip, then I can play Cultist Absolute. Sissay is now 7/7. I can end step that, go to turn, grab Vivian on the hunt, and boom, basically run through the Kiki chain. And if I have no other 3 CMC, I can start right with Sissay, and she can sacrifice herself for the greater good. Ertai is nice, and if anybody ever wanted to run something like this, I can absolutely see a point for throwing Sissay in if you are running late. It's just I don't find too many opportunities, or really too many times where I'm like, oh man, I wish I had something to stifle this, because honestly, early games, especially a lot of the pods I run, there's a lot of turbo. Like there's not a lot of Stax decks in my primary meta, but when I'm playing online with other people, I just want to win fast, and Ertai is just, to me, it's not a fast deck card.
Okay, so this list is my Sissay list. It's the one on the database with the other one is with Rebel. There's never a point in a game where I could use Ertai. If I am trying to win, I have a 5/5 Sissay. If I get stopped, I probably won't have the mana for a second activation. If I get stopped, I lose. That's it.
Wait. When you say I get stopped, I lose, is that also implicating that you don't have a second chance of winning?
Because I usually win through Oracle, and so it's not unheard of that I just lose. I don't have a second shot. However, there are certain cards in the deck, and there are games in the past that I have played where they have allowed me to have a second chance, and so that's why I'm diehard fan of Kitten, because the Kitten has saved me so many times.
Displacer Kitten.
There have been 2 or 3 games in the past where I've gone for the Thoracle combo, and Kitten was out on the field, and they stifled the Oracle trigger after my entire deck was exiled, and it's like, oh, guess I'm gonna lose. And then it's like, oh wait, I have a Force of Will in hand. Anybody cast anything? I'm gonna cast something, flicker Oracle, try and win again.
But you have other combos in here as well. I still
Yeah.
see Emil, and yeah, there's the Dockside, and there's the Revi, and I guess there's a Cradle in here, obviously.
Yeah,
there is
there's
Cradle.
Cradle.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that you have games where you go for the classic Sissay win attempt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there's your finisher Croxa as well. So you have infinite mana with Emil, and you have CC activation, you find Croxa and you win. So I'm guessing you have situations where you try to win, you get interacted with, but you could try to win again like next turn.
Yeah, that does happen. But if I am at that point where I try to win and then I get stopped, if I'm trying to cast Court of Calling to get one of the pieces so that way it's cheaper than a Sissay activation and then that gets countered, I don't have the pieces I need in order to use Sissay because I chose other options. If Ertai were 3 mana, that would be totally different. Because he's 4 mana.
Yes. Yes.
I think we all agree with that.
If he was 3 mana, he would be bonkers. Absolutely
God,
bonkers.
Yeah, see, one thing I did want to briefly touch on. You mentioned, oh, if you have infinite mana, you can flicker him, and then you can try and destroy one of your own permanents, and then you flicker him again and counter it, and so you just draw your entire deck. I'm pretty sure all of us run Selvala, and Selvala has that neat little line of text. You don't.
I don't.
You
I can get to that later.
You
I don't play Selvala. I can explain that later. Go
Okay,
ahead.
well, those of us that do play Selvala has this line
I
of
love how
text.
you framed that.
It has this line of text that says, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if it has the most power, its controller draws a card. And so with Sissay, you can make Sissay functionally a 7/7 or a 10/10. And there's not much that gets bigger than that in cEDH, and so you can
Basically draw your deck there by using Emil and just flicker Sissay and use Selvala to draw your deck and then win with something like Fastest Oracle or Final of Devastation. Yeah. In that case, I'm gonna ask you, why are you playing Croxa?
So why I play Croxa is because you need the extra mana to start. You can have Selvala on the board. If you play Croxa from either hand or graveyard, he enters, Selvala taps for 6, and then you can just get more mana.
But isn't that like a rarity? Like having Croxa and Selvala together, cast Croxa, make mana with Selvala. It's there, but do you find it happening more enough to have Croxa in the deck?
Honestly, I used to, but within the past 6 months or so, it's been happening less. So Croxa might be on the way out. I would need to find something to replace it with.
Yeah. Ertai! No, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, okay, so it's funny you say that, right? And I feel like, some of the other sort of Sissay adherents, like in the Discord, right? They're doing almost exactly that. And while that's good and fine, and again, the thing I think we all agree, right, is Sissay with infinite mana, you can throw anything in your. You want to throw Brea? Throw Brea in. You want to throw Jessica Warrior Adept? Throw Jessica. It really, honestly, does not matter what you have. If you have infinite mana, as long as it has some sort of a kill effect, you can play it. So using cards as finishers, for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of, because if that's all they're there for, and again, Ertai obviously has other uses, and it's if you want a really expensive stifle, go for it. You got one, right?
I'm actually gonna jump in and say I don't have a finisher anymore. I used to have Mayhem Devil in my deck list, and we're gonna touch on that soon, but I don't. My finisher is a win-conless win these days. It's Teferi, and I don't think you have it in here, but you don't need it. So the thing with Emil and Derevi is that and Teferi and Thalia, So back to my list, here's Thalia, making everything one more expensive. And what I can do is when people go to their turn, I can use Derevi to tap down everything they have, and then because of Teferi, they're not allowed to interact, and they can't cast anything because Thalia, so they basically sit there and pass turn, and I just go to my turn where I have an enormous board state, and I attack, and I win next turn, basically. So it's like a combo lock that prevents them from playing. It's very similar to the back in the days when you would create infinite swans, 2/2s, and have a hand of 7 counter spells and pass turn and win next turn. Those that remember that. Twister loops stuff.
So one thing I want to just point out in the discussion with Mayhem Devil, for Sissay players, a very common argument for including or not including a card is, oh, it's not legendary. So I can't possibly get it. It's not legendary. And with Mayhem Devil and a lot of other cards like Oracle, even if you have infinite mana, you can get Keenan and activate Keenan and pull out all your non-humans. And so you can get the Mayhem Devil, you can get Dockside, you can get any of the creatures from your deck. And so I don't see it not being legendary as a downside. And
Agree.
A lot of CC players do.
If it was legendary, it would be absolutely amazing, though. But
Yeah,
I agree. I don't see it as a problem. The big reason I cut it is basically a meta choice. I don't see it being good. I like it's good at interacting, killing dorks. I'm usually going up against Spellslinger blue farm decks that don't play dorks and they don't care. So it doesn't do enough for me.
No, that makes sense.
And it's not good at killing like Thrasios. It's not good at killing Granite Magistrate. It's good at killing Noble Hierarch. However, let's talk about Selvala here.
I can't wait for this.
So both of you are playing Selvala. And I think like the entire cEDH Sissay Discord basically will play Selvala. I have actually had her in the deck, and the reason I cut her is that I think Derevi is doing the exact same thing. If I'm having like the point where you get Selvala with Sissay is when she's a 4/4 and you win basically next turn. There's also the case where you just have her in hand, you cast her and you pass turn, and next turn you're gonna potentially win. If I'm at like a 4/4 with Sissay, I'm usually finding Derevi, and then I have usually another CC activation. But I think Derevi and Selvala are doing the same thing, and I want to cut slots as much as I can. As you can see, my deck is very creature heavy. I have 37 creatures, which is more than you guys. Not to say that more creatures are more better, it's just that this deck contains a lot of creatures. So the usual board state that I have is enough for Derevi to basically create 5 mana on itself. So in my last opponent's end step, I will activate, find Derevi, I will go to my turn, and I can attack, and with Derevi, I have 5 creatures to make 2 CC activations. And on that turn, I can find Cradle and Emil. And even if I don't perfectly have 2 CC activations, the Cradle will be the green mana to help activate Sissay the second time, and help get the free mana to activate Emil. So in this specific deck, I don't feel the need for Selvala. It's just a card that I can cut to make more space for other cool things like this Ramses that I have no idea if he's good.
My assumption is that you're not pulling Dereve unless you have that 5, the Woolberg mana on the board to untap for the second activation, right?
Yeah, correct. But I absolutely agree that Selvala is an all-star Sissay card. So we kind of moved past Ertai. Now we're looking at other cards that we have different opinions on. We talked Selvala, we talked some Mayhem Devil, Cultist of the Absolute. I understand that a lot of Sissay players love it, and I got a feeling, Captain Bill, that it allows you to win out of nowhere kind of style, right?
It does. It really does. And I think you're being very generous with a lot of Sissay players. Like, from sort of my interaction with, a lot of other Sissay players, it's probably maybe a 60-40, like to hate. It's a contentious card because it's a very aggressive card, I guess is a good way to put it. Because yes, you're getting that, beautiful black pip, which is not common in a lot of Sissay decks. Anytime we can find a Rakdos pip, we get excited, which is why Ragavan will never leave a deck ever. And you're getting that beautiful 3/3, right? So now you're getting this nice fat Sissay that you can go grab kind of whatever you want out of the deck. But, you do have to sack a creature on your upkeep. This card allows you to do is dig through, and again, we're talking cEDH decks where if you have a 5 CMC see you're already opening people's eyes, right? This card allows me personally in my pod deck to pull Vivian, and it really pulls Vivian into a pod line that is already sort of self-contained, and allows Sissay to actually activate that line. So, long story short, this is what activates it, and what's really good about the card is, you know, yes, you do have to sack something, but by the time you've sacked whatever it is you need, you should have already won.
And that's where I'm gonna say, in my experience, I don't win because someone will always go interaction and I'm not winning. And how my wins have started to like develop a lot is I win by attrition. I just win by trying to pump win attempts after win attempts. Like I can win. I remember something you said, Riled Up, that if I don't win, I don't win. And in my experience, if I don't win, I win next turn. And if I don't win next turn, I win the turn after that again. And if I don't win that turn, I will always try to win like every single turn after a certain state. Like I don't win like turn early game. Or well, sometimes I do. I mean, Dockside Emil could be in my hand, but still. But what this does is hurts my attrition game plan, so to say.
Yep, and that's fair. That makes a lot of sense.
For a deck that can win like out of nowhere, this opens that up. Absolutely. So in the end, Sissay can be built in extreme different ways. For example, we have my more Staxy approach or my more creature heavy approach. But then we have Captain Bill and Riled Up White Kid who have a different approach. And honestly, there are pros and cons to everything. There's no right or wrong on anything. That's it for the video. I hope you found it inspiring and got you some new cool ideas for Sissay, as she's definitely a commander that is growing in power level with every set, I think. And the more she grows, the more deck variants we're gonna have. Take care, guys, and I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.